Next question. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Zakir Naik. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Muhammad Faisal Farooq from West Bengal, India. I am +2 student. My question is that is it permissible to invest in mutual funds? Before I reply to this question, let us understand what is a mutual fund. Mutual fund means that if you want to invest in stocks or shares of the company, you can go to the stock market and invest. But mutual fund is there is a fund manager. A mutual fund may be launched by any company, and that company appoints a fund manager. And there are some rules and regulation of the stock exchange in that country which makes it possible to see to it that the loss can be mitigated. The loss can be made less by certain rules and regulation. So in a mutual fund, if a company launches a mutual fund, anyone can take part in it. There may be a minimum amount, it may be $100, maybe $500, $1,000, and people buy the number of units. And depending on the size of the mutual fund, when many people, hundreds of thousands of people join together, the size of the fund can be few $1 million, can be $100 million, can even be more than $1 billion. Now, in a mutual fund where many people join together in investment, number one, the size of the fund becomes bigger. So you have more opportunities. Number two, the fund manager, he has to decide where to invest. Now, there are some guidelines laid down by every stock exchange in different countries. That if it's a mutual fund, they may put a guideline that you cannot invest more than 20% or more than 30% of the total fund in one company. The other rule is you cannot buy more than 30% or 20% or 50%, whatever the rules are, of that one company, the limitations. And then there are limitations that the fund may say, okay, we are going to invest in many, so they invest in many funds. Some invest in 50 funds, maybe 50 shares, maybe they invest in 50 different companies. Some may invest in more than that, some may less, but they invest in a variety of companies, so risk is mitigated. And you yourself are free from taking the decision because they're giving to an expert, that fund manager expert in that field. You personally are not responsible for the decision, he is responsible, and that fund and that company takes a fee for management, maybe 1% of your investment, or maybe less, or maybe more, maybe 2% of your investment value, they take as their fee for managing your fund. But since it's a big pool, you have more chances. You can't invest in one particular company so that one company goes down, all your money doesn't go. But if you invest individually, the chances that if you make a wrong decision, you will lose all your money. But chances that if you make a right decision, you may get more money also. So if you invest individually, they both are there. You can make a bigger loss, you can make a bigger profit. In mutual fund, your risk is lowered. But yet you can have profit. You may not make super profit, but yet you can make substantial profit. Now coming to your question, can you invest in mutual funds? You can invest in, best is to invest in Islamic mutual funds. Many countries have Islamic mutual fund, and Malaysia is one of the highest, mashallah, which has the number of Islamic mutual funds, because Malaysia is the country, one of the countries in the world which promotes maximum interest-free economy, that has a large number of Islamic banks, though in volume it may be number 2 after Saudi Arabia, but the number of banks that they have, number of options they have is much more than Saudi Arabia. So there are many mutual funds here. Now this mutual fund is controlled, if it's an Islamic mutual fund, it should have an Islamic Sharia board. And the chairman of the Sharia board, who is a specialist, will give the fatwa whether you can invest in this company or not. So if it's an Islamic mutual fund, they follow the Sharia principle in investment. They will not invest in any company. They will not buy shares of any company which are selling haram products, like companies dealing in alcohol, companies dealing in pork, companies of, for example, conventional bank, which deals in riba, so they stay away from that. There are various criteria which I discussed earlier in which you are allowed to buy shares. And there are 5 criteria. I don't want to go into details again, that you have to see to it production not be haram, you should see to it that the loan they take from the bank should not be so much, the cash debt ratio, and there are various criteria that I discussed in my earlier answer. So if this is a Sharia compliant company, it may not be owned by a Muslim, it may be owned by a non-Muslim. As long as it is Sharia compliant, then you can buy shares of that company. So in a mutual fund, if it's an Islamic mutual fund, that Sharia board is taking care whether all the companies invested is Sharia compliant or not, number one. The fund manager is taking care to see to it that your risk is lowered. So you may get a moderate profit, or there may be different ways they invest in mutual fund. It can be a low risk mutual fund. They said we will only invest in sukuk. So if you're investing in sukuk, the risk is low, but the profit is also low. So it's a low risk, low profit mutual fund where they invest only in shares of sukuk. They only invest in sukuk, which is the low risk. Lower the risk, lower the profit. Higher the risk, higher the profit. So you can have a combination of both. There are some mutual funds which say, okay, we will invest 50% in sukuk and 50% in normal shares. So you get a medium profit. Depending. Some Islamic funds say we'll only invest in a particular type of companies. So you have a choice. Investing in Islamic mutual funds, which has the Islamic Sharia board, is the best. You can invest in mutual funds which don't have a Sharia board, but then you have to monitor it. For example, you can invest in a mutual fund which is only of pharmaceutical companies, because investing in pharmaceutical company is halal. It's not involving alcohol, not involving haram products. But then you have to take care that most of the pharmaceutical companies are Sharia compliant, but not all. So you have to do your own research. Okay, has that company taken too much of bank loans? If it's going beyond the level, is there any haram income? So you will have to monitor that. So you can invest in mutual funds which don't have a Sharia board, which may not be Islamic mutual fund, but by nature it may be Islamic, but you have to monitor. And if you are investing a lot of money, you can talk to the fund manager and say that I'm going to invest, so many tens of millions of dollars, and I've seen your portfolio, all of them are Islamic, but there's one company which is not making much profit, according to me, un-Islamic, can you avoid that company? And they agree many times. And I know many people who do this, that they speak to the non-Muslim fund manager and they say, your thing is Sharia compliant, except for this company, though it's a pharmaceutical company, it doesn't fall into the purview, and it's not making much profit, so why you are avoiding? We would like to join and we'll be a big donor. So they may agree. But generally investing in mutual fund is permitted if it's Sharia compliant. So best is invest in an Islamic mutual fund which has a Sharia board. If you're investing in a mutual fund that doesn't have a Sharia board, you have to do your own research and be careful that as long as the companies are Sharia compliant, you can invest in them. Hope this answers the question.